Okay then, Scott. Would people who have been good and deserve a treat also be in line for watching The Gentleman? Is that something they should consider doing?
Oh, they should do if they bend a certain way. There was a time, maybe a decade ago, where saying a Guy Ritchie film was pretty much a review in and of itself. Of course, now that particular church has been broadened to include the likes of Sherlock Holmes films and, of all things, Aladdin. Further description is now required. Although, if you simply pretend that the last 10 years didn't happen, The Gentleman is very much a straight-line continuation of the Lock, Stock and Snatch bloodline. The Gentleman is a story told in large part by Hugh Grant's sleazy tabloid journalist Fletcher, relating the rise and potential fall of drug kingpin Mickey Pearson, played by Matthew McConaughey, to Fletcher's lieutenant Charlie Hunnam's Raymond. And, well, that pulls in a whole lot of other characters and plot strands that, in classic Ritchie fashion, snowball together in a big old mess of convenience and coincidence, which is fun to watch, but sounds like a cross between madness and nonsense if repeated. Some of those characters include Michelle Dockery as Rosalind Pearson, Mickey's partner and equal in the business and personal senses, Eddie Marsan as Big Dave, the rabid tabloid editor seeking Mickey's downfall, Colin Farrell as Coach, a gym trainer with an unsettlingly efficient grasp of gangland mechanics, trying to get his young charges out of trouble with Mickey, which was caused by the machinations of Henry Golding's Dry Eye, a triad rival who's trying to muscle in on Mickey's operations. Now, popular opinion would be that Guy Ritchie very much lost his mojo after going back to the well of knockabout London gangland crime comedies a bit too often. To be honest, even if Revolver wasn't a patch on Lock, Stock, given that the market is not otherwise saturated with similar outings, I could have gladly watched a mediocre Ritchie joint every 2 years without really complaining. But his time away from the Cockney coalface has certainly built up in anticipation for this, and to be honest, I'm as surprised as you are to report it's pretty much delivered on all fronts. Now, it's not high art, of course, and no, it's not as good as Snatch or Lock, Stock, but it's certainly much closer to that than Revolver or Rock and Roller. Of all things, it's probably Hugh Grant that's stealing the show here, playing wildly and hilariously against type, but the rest of the cast are also dependably excellent, and it has the usual Ritchie, punchy pacing and funny, excessively sweary dialogue. I think he's been saving up all of his cussing budget for the last decade and spent it all in this film. Now, it's not perfect, but largely in ways that don't really matter. The narrative doesn't hold a lot of water, but it's a bucket that's wide enough to contain the characters and watch them bounce off each other in funny ways. And, well, it's a comedy. What more do you want from it? It's so good, it even survives the most ludicrous piece of product placement I've ever seen. To my surprise, well worth watching.
Remind me of the product placement, Scott.
Oh, perhaps you might not know it if you don't know the story, but when for no particular reason in the middle of the night they go out for a barbecue, and that seemed weird. That is because Guy Ritchie has invented that barbecue and sells it.
Really?
That's his design, and he wanted to put it in a film, and he did. So I suppose he paid himself for it. I don't know.
I can say this is maybe there's the one downside to my film-related media blackout before I see stuff, unless I catch a trailer in the cinema. Talking of which, seeing a trailer in the cinema, I saw the trailer for this film without having heard of it before, and within about 30 seconds, like, well, that's a Guy Ritchie film.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Revolver's the film with Jason Statham, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is the only Guy Ritchie film I've not seen apart from Swept Away, which I assume doesn't actually exist and is just a joke, an urban legend.
Yes.
So I guess his last gangster film I would have seen would be Rock and Roller then. But I went in with this with quite a lot of anticipation. And it's great. It's really, really funny and entertaining. What I did think, though, and almost immediately too, is that I think, again, Guy Ritchie directing Aladdin, I still can't quite get my head around that.
Yes.
I mean, it's a film that ought not to exist, but not because of Guy Ritchie's direction of it. But that was his film before The Gentleman, and I just have this feeling that he basically came away from the set of Aladdin scared by all the bright colours and Disney family-friendly language, and came back to his producers and financiers and says, the next film I'm going to make is going to be all the Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
Because in every aspect it's all the Guy Ritchie. And it's just thoroughly entertaining. The plot doesn't make a lick of sense really, but they never really did. It's more just like, right, how's this guy going to have actually screwed over this guy?
Yeah.
When you think this guy screwed over this guy. And you can guess some of it. Some of you can't, again, because of the relative lack of sense in some of it. It's still entertaining. Not massively sold on Matthew McConaughey in it. But I didn't dislike him. I'm not convinced that was the best casting for the role. Charlie Hunnam's great. I've not seen him in an awful lot, actually. I've never seen the TV stuff he's been in. I can only think of at the moment of him being in Pacific Rim, I think.
Sure.
But he's great. But the standout is Hugh Grant.
Yeah. I was not expecting that from Hugh Grant at all, but he's great.
I kind of was, in a way, that he was capable of that, because I think you, like I, Scott, were very much familiar with mid-90s Hugh Grant. You know, Four Weddings and a Funeral, the sort of upper-class English, well, twit sometimes, but tough, and like not particularly interesting. And a lot of the films he's in didn't seem particularly interesting to me. And it's like that kind of slightly hapless, slightly effete Englishman, you know, that seemed to be in everything. And then I saw About a Boy, which I enjoyed a great deal, and I thought, okay, now there's definitely something more to him here, because I'd always been turned off by Hugh Grant before, and About a Boy's 2003 or something, and I think a long time ago. But there's something in there, and he's starting even just there a wee bit, this kind of self-effacing, almost poking fun at that persona, but not quite, because the film doesn't always call for it. And then I saw Paddington 2, in which he is clearly happily taking the mick out of himself and just like playing a role you wouldn't really expect him to be capable of, or willing to do at least. And just, he's absolutely vamping it up and hamming it up and doing a complete pantomime performance in Paddington 2, and it's fantastic. And there's almost something like that here. And it's so funny. It's such a ridiculous character, but he pulls it off. And I find it really, really entertaining. It really makes the film. And yeah, so as you say, it's a Guy Ritchie film, but I like Guy Ritchie films, so
yes.
It's a Guy Ritchie film. Yay! It's a Guy Ritchie film. Yeah, it's really, really entertaining. I think maybe the only slight disappointment I have, Matthew McConaughey, I think was great, but it wasn't bad. The only real disappointment I have is that Eddie Marsan isn't particularly entertaining. It doesn't feel particularly Eddie Marsan-y.
Yeah, it doesn't have a great deal to do. Can't have more than, 2 scenes that are of any note. So yeah.
Yeah. It's more just kind of like shouty and angry Eddie Marsan, and that's generally not the most entertaining Eddie Marsan.
Yeah.
What I really want is the Eddie Marsan from Filth. Something like that, you know, or like Little Dog or something even. But Eddie Marsan from Filth would have been very welcome. And it's kind of grumbly, gruff, shouty, serious Eddie Marsan. Nah. It's a minor complaint because it's a minor role.
Yeah.
You could do a lot worse than Watch the Gentleman.
Yes, absolutely.